Smile.
But I'm not happy.
People
Why are
are
you
staring.
I don't want to do this.
You have to. They'll know
No one
something's
cares
wrong.
about your
Why
life.
is that bad?
Nobody cares. They won't understand.
Nobody
You want to go
cares.
home. You'll hurt their feelings.
This was ridiculous.
What are we even talking about?
Just
You want
keep
to keep them happy.
What if they
They're
think
gonna
you're
be mean.
stupid?
Just keep them happy.
Just keep them happy.
Just lie.
I'm not here to sugarcoat, life's already a bumpy road. Too much shelter causes pain, let's just be real honest. Things are gonna knock you down, avoidance will not help you out. Let's talk it through, here me and you, let's keep it real honest.
Hi, welcome to Real Honest, the podcast where I share candid thoughts and feelings about life, love, and relationships, God and church, adulting in the workplace, and everything in between. I'm your host. My name is Samantha, and you probably won't always like me, but I will always be honest with you. How are you today? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? Notice where you're holding your tension right now. Are your shoulders tense? Is your neck tense? Like, just relax, take a deep breath. In. Out. Can you feel your feet on the floor? Feel your chair? Doing a quick check-in. Hope that was helpful because I needed it. Not having a great day and I need a little reset minute. But jumping in here with a goals check-in. How are you guys doing? It's April, so how are you guys feeling about quarter one? How are you feeling you did? Are you discouraged? Are you happy? Are you excited going into quarter two? It's a good and bad time because I feel like you can dwell on things that you didn't do, but it's also exciting because it's a new quarter. You can start fresh. If you didn't work on any goals in Q1, it's like it doesn't matter. It's behind you. Full speed ahead. My primary goal this month is to make some progress on my book, which actually is going really well because there is a book that I got that breaks down beat by beat, scene by scene, how to write a book. And I had planned out I was going to spend the whole month reading it, but I ended up getting through 13 of 15 chapters over the weekend, and it really, really helped me. So now I am working on following the structure that it gave me and detailing out my outline. For those who don't know, in the writers community, you typically are either what I think it's a plotter or a pantser. I'm not even totally sure the language, but either plotters would be people that are super planned out, very detailed outline, character sketches, maybe drawings of their world. And a pantser is you fly by the seat of your pants. You just sit down and write and the words just come to you. And then they have, I think it's plantsers that are people that are somewhere in between that maybe have a loose outline, but are super kind of open to go anywhere when they are sitting down writing. And I have always considered myself a plotter, but the plotting was in my head. I never wrote out all of my outlines and my character sketches and all that because it's lived in my mind. I think I write really similar to how Shonda Rhimes does. She always talks in her master class about she views writing like baking a cake, where she's doing other things and the story is baking in the back of her mind. And until the oven dings, and it's fully baked, it's ready. And when that happens, taking the cake out of the oven is when she sits down to write and throws it all on paper and it just comes out very quickly. And that typically is how I am too. I'll spend months or years working on the story until I have all of the pieces. And then when it's fully baked is when I sit down and write it all out. But obviously it's been years and I'm still missing pieces. So I'm wanting to change my strategy and try something else of actually putting it down on paper. I have all the big scenes are in my head, but the little scenes in terms of how I get from that midpoint to the climax, that's what's missing. And I'm kind of just been waiting for it to come to me. But it turns out there is actually a really great formula that you can follow. So you don't have to just wait for the wind to blow it through your mind one day. And I'm very excited about sitting down and working on that later this month. I actually have no idea what I'm learning from God right now. I feel like recent sermons that I've listened to have been about letting go. And so that's a recurring theme. So I've been asking God, what are you asking me to let go of? And I'm really not sure. I'm thinking it could be some friendships. It could be some volunteer position. It could be more, less tangible. It could be my expectations. It could be my standard for friendships versus the actual friendships. Like I really have no idea. I've been really struggling with my daily reading this week, not getting it done, but just being interested and being invested. I'm kind of disinterested in everything across the board in terms of like, I'm really struggling to find like television and movies that I find interesting. I'm not engaged at work. I'm finding like everyday conversations with acquaintances and friends to be frustrating and hard and not interesting. And that is a sign of depression is when you lose interest in things that you used to be interested in. So that it could be a symptom that that's coming on soon. So I'm just trying to be like aware of it, I guess. But through that, I don't have a very clear picture of what I'm learning from God right now. So I'm trying to be cognizant of knowing that I'm in a lesson, but I don't know what it is. I am really interested in today's topic though, so I'll be really curious to hear your guys' thoughts. Seriously, please email me at realhonestpod@gmail.com to let me know your thoughts on this. But I want to talk about fostering strong friendships through the way that you react when people share things with you. I actually got this idea from last week. I was listening to the Drama Queens podcast, the One Tree Hill rewatch, and they were specifically talking about parenting, and the advice from an older parent to a younger parent was, if you want your kids to share things with you, you can't react very big. She said, like, the less that you react, the more, specifically when they're sharing like something hard or something big. Like it could be, I got a bad grade, I had sex for the first time, I did this big thing, I lied to somebody, I got in trouble at school, whatever it is. The less that you react, then the more that your children will share with you. And it just got me thinking, like, do I agree with that? And I think that I do. And I actually think that it's applicable. I don't think it's just children to parents. I think it's applicable across the board for all relationships, because I think that it comes back to safety. And I think the idea is like, if I get in trouble at school and I'm afraid that my parents are going to yell at me, spank me, like, then I'm less likely to come home and say I got a bad grade. But if I have parents that are going to sit me down and say, like, did you try your best? And I can honestly say, yes, I did, but I didn't do well. And they can say, like, all right, well, how do we help you study harder for next time? Or if I can honestly say, no, I didn't try my best. I didn't study. This is not my best work, and I know that I can do better, and I just screwed up this time. And if they can say, like, all right, and understand that, and we can have a conversation about it and move on, that's very different than them getting a report card and coming in my room and screaming at me because they don't like the letters on the report card. Like, that's behavior that's going to make me hide the report card in the future. And I think the same is true for friends. Like, if your friend is sharing something with you and you chastise them or berate them or you make them feel stupid, and it doesn't even have to necessarily be something big. Like, I'm trying to think of a smaller example where, like, here's a stupid one, like a TV show or a social media post that the person hasn't seen, right? Like, there are all these like big pop culture references that like we think the average person knows. For example, Twilight. I recently had a friend of mine mention that she's never seen Twilight. And I was like, what? You've never seen Twilight? Like, do you live under a rock? And that reaction, like, implies that she's stupid. That she either is unintelligent and just like missed something. Like, she could have actively, and I did later ask follow-up questions of like, did you not watch it on purpose? Like, were you actively against it, or did you just somehow fly under the radar of like not even knowing that it existed? And she's like, of course I knew that it existed and it was really popular. I just wasn't interested in watching it and just never went to the theater. I know it was like playing on lots of different TV channels for a long time, and I just never would stay on the channel long enough to watch it. Like, I've seen scenes here and there. But either way, like, she ended up actually being really receptive to my reaction, but like, I have been on the other end of that a lot of times where people are like, what, how can you not know this? And it makes me feel really dumb, or like they think that I'm dumb. And I think that the worst thing that you can do is make somebody feel dumb, or like the way that I love how Taylor Swift puts it in this one interview. She says the worst kind of person makes somebody feel bad for being excited about something. And like that's happened to me too. I was like dating this guy in college, and he had asked like what my favorite movie was, and I think I said Mission Impossible 2, because Mission Impossible 2 is the first movie that I remember as a kid really loving and watching repeatedly. That wasn't like a kid's show, like a Disney thing. Like for my sister, it was The Matrix. For me, it was Mission Impossible 2, where I thought the masks were so cool. And I thought that Naya kind of looked like me, and like that was really exciting. And he looked at me like I had 10 heads and was like, do you think that Tom Cruise is a good actor? And I was like, yeah, actually, I enjoy his movies. And he was like, you're an idiot, basically. And that made me feel really small, and it made me feel really dumb, and it made me feel like I couldn't be excited about whatever number Mission Impossible movie was coming out that summer, because he thought it was stupid that I was into it. And that made me not want to share things with him. I think the way to get closer to people, like the way to go from being an acquaintance to a friend, and from a friend to a close friend, and a close friend to a best friend, is vulnerability. You know, it's being able to share things about yourself and listening to the other person share things about themselves. But if we are reacting in ways that make the other person feel unsafe, then that's going to trigger a response that like next time we're wanting to share something, we're probably going to share less. We're going to be a little bit more closed off. And I don't know that I fully agree with the like that your reaction needs to be small. I think that your reaction needs to be appropriate for what's being shared, because I think I understand the context of like if somebody's like, I did something bad, or like I'm having a really dark thought, and then your reaction is really big, like, what do you mean? Like, you know, it's kind of like I've had some friends in my life who like they have no personal experience with depression. So if they text me and say like, hey, how are you doing? And I'm like, awful, I want to die. And they like, that's an everyday feeling for me. It's an everyday thing. It's not a cry for help. But I have friends that like aren't aware of that. So their reaction is like, what? Like, do I need to call 911? Like, you just said you want to die. Like, oh my God, what do I? And they like really get really anxious and freak out and just make it into a way bigger thing than it is. So something like that, or even back to the like school examples of like, you know, having gotten a bad grade or whatever, like it's better to react small. But if somebody is like, maybe if they're like telling a joke and they want a big laugh, well, I mean, I don't think you should lie if you don't think it's funny, but I think like there's a difference between you being like, haha, because you didn't think it's funny, or like you genuinely think it's funny, but you're just not an expressive person. Or if it's something, if they're like, I got a promotion, you know, you could be like, oh, cool, good for you. And then they may feel like, wow, you don't care. You didn't celebrate with me. Because what they were looking for was like, oh my gosh, you got a promotion. Amazing. Good for you. Like, because they want to be celebrated. So that's what I mean in the context of like, should the reaction be big or should it be small? But I think in most cases, if it's like a vulnerability thing, because you don't really need to be vulnerable to share with someone that you got a promotion. So I feel like the more vulnerable is going to be more like not necessarily secrets, but maybe like details from my past, like things about my family, things I'm unsure about, experiences that are like hard or difficult memories. And those, I think you're going to be more likely to get people to open up more by reacting smaller, like being able to really hold an even tone, ask some follow-up questions, and not treat the person like you think they're an idiot. Something that I have learned, I'll say, in the first quarter of this year is that the thing that separates my best friends, my really close friends from my friends, is that safety piece of like my best friends make me feel safe no matter what. And it's really, really important to me to have people in my life that I don't have to filter when I talk. Because, you know, like even recording this podcast, like I'm trying to be very, very careful about my words because I really want to be clear and I really want to be understood. And I really want everyone that is listening to receive what it is that I'm trying to say, even though I know that I can't guarantee that and that's not going to happen. But I just think like having to be careful right now, and then like I have to filter at work because it's a professional environment, right? And then I filter with my family because like I curse more than my families do. I feel like I'm a little more relaxed than my family members about certain things. I'm a little more open than they are. Like I almost feel like my family is similar to a work environment where I have to be this like more polished version of me. And then, of course, like I am a leader in my church. And so there are certain like rules and expectations with that come with that, where I need to be presented in a certain way. And I wouldn't say that any of these versions are not me. I more think of it in terms of like, think of all your social media profiles, right? Like there's a version of you on Facebook. There's a version of you on Instagram, a version of you on Twitter or X or whatever they're calling it now. Where they're all slightly different. If you're on TikTok, like just different platforms have different purposes and they showcase different parts of your personality. And so I don't necessarily look at it as putting on a mask, but it's more like when I'm at work, I'm not looking to build friendships. I'm looking to build professional relationships. So I'm giving them probably 70% of me, and I hold back the stuff that I would give to my close friends because there's not a place for it at work. And unless I have like my work bestie, like she has crossed from coworker to friend. So I do give her some of that stuff. But I feel like because I have to filter in all of these, pretty much everything that I'm doing all day, like I love that my best friend is a safe place that I can call or FaceTime and just say whatever is on my heart and mind, just whatever comes out. And I know that he's never going to judge me. He's never going to be upset with me. He's not going to take anything that I say the wrong way because he knows me so well that even if I say something like off color or off kilter, he's going to be like, I get it. Like you were in a mood. Like, you know, it's like he's going to like totally know and understand. And it's not something that I'm going to have to explain. And I feel like just that safety, like I pray that everybody out there has at least one person in their life that can do this for them, because it makes all the difference in the longevity of the relationship. Just thinking back to like reactions when I think about all of the people in my life, I feel like my family typically reacts bigger in like a shocked way when they learn things about me. I think because they think that they know me really well because we all were in the same house for 20 years, but I wasn't like fully comfortable to be myself. Whereas like, so I think there are still things that like my parents may learn about me that's like shocking to them. But if my best friend learns it, it's just like, you know, it's like I could say like I rode a motorcycle today, or I could say I opened my front door, and my best friend would react exactly the same to these pieces of information, to where it's really fulfilling to be able to say like, I am not feeling great and I literally contemplated stabbing my boss today, and I know that's awful. Like my best friend knows that I am never actually going to make plans to murder or harm anyone, and that but I did like sit while working and maybe the image went through my head. But like being able to say that to someone and them not be like, what is wrong with you? Like get a doctor, seek help, you know, is really, it's nice for them to understand it. Of course, if you're a person that like, it's not just a fleeting thought and you're actually acting on it, then like, all right, maybe. maybe we do need to bring in some professional help. But even I would still argue in that case that the reaction should still be small. I think the reaction should still be like, and when's your next therapy session? Like, are you seeing someone about that? And you can ask that like casually without like making it really dramatic and making it like really into a thing. I don't have one specific hard conversation to share this week. I feel like all of my conversations in the last like 3 weeks have been really hard. Like I'm feeling really, really exhausted. I'm feeling very misunderstood. Like I feel like everything that I say is being taken the wrong way to the point where I just don't want to talk to anyone about anything. Like I don't even really want to publish this podcast because I feel like it's going to upset somebody. And here's the thing, like I'm also studying the Enneagram right now because I really like to understand myself better, and I'm an Enneagram 4. And the thing about Enneagram 4s is that our like core need is to be our authentic selves and to be able to articulate who that is to others and to be accepted for who we are. So if you dislike me, like if you get to know me, if you know who I am and I lay it all out on the table and you don't like me, then I don't care. I'm not bothered by that. What I'm bothered by is if you don't like me, but you don't know me, if you have like a false perception of me. And I feel like that's been happening a lot, where people, like just the conversations that I'm having with different people, they're just repeatedly proving that they don't know me. And so then I'm second guessing, like, am I not being clear? Am I being confusing? Or are they just not listening? And it's the kind of thing where it's either being asked the same question repeatedly in a conversation and not in the, sometimes therapists do that to try to get you to like the root of your own thing and you're having a different answer every time. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like it was a yes or no question, or like a simple answer question that I answered 10 minutes ago, and now I'm being asked the exact same question again. And I am like, were you not listening when I told you 10 minutes ago? Or do you just not really care? Is this filler conversation? Like, what's going on here? Another example would be me sharing with someone. I mean, you guys know I've talked about my hatred for small talk forever, so you guys know that I hate small talk. But if I were to share with someone, like I'm so exhausted, I've had so much small talk this week, I just really want to have a deep conversation about something. And the person responds to me with something to the effect of, so what I'm hearing is that you just want to talk about what you want to talk about, and you're not interested in what anyone has to say, and everything has to be about you, and you have to be the center of attention. And I am like, no, that's not true. That's not what I'm saying at all. Like saying that I don't want to talk about small talk and I want to have a deep life talk about something, that doesn't mean that I only want to talk about what I want to talk about. I'm saying I want to go beyond work and the weather. Like if the other person has something going on that they want to talk about, I don't need to choose the topic. We don't need to agree on everything. Like if they want to tell me about something that they learned from a book or a conversation they had, like that's what I'm looking for. But I'm not understanding how you got from me saying I don't want to do any more small talk, I want to have a real conversation about something, and then took away, oh, you're very selfish, you only care about yourself, you just want to dictate the conversation all the time. Because that's not, and I feel like that's the kind of thing that keeps happening, is I say something that I think is very clear and then it gets misconstrued and taken somewhere else with it. And then it's like, this is happening over and over again with multiple people that I'm like, do I not speak English? Like what do I just not know what's happening here? And I was getting just like so overwhelmed with all of these conversations. And then one of my best friends, like I was complaining to her about it, and her response to me was like, I literally like almost cried because it just made me like feel so seen. I want to see if I can find it so I can like read a piece of it to you. But she essentially said like, hey, you've spent a lot of time trying to come against these ideas and interpretations, and you sound really upset right now because you've been made to feel like you're misunderstood and you have to defend yourself. So let's start with just take a deep breath right now. And that message to me like meant the world, because she knew exactly how I was feeling and articulated exactly how I was feeling. And I was like, yes, you get me. And it's just so rare, especially after weeks of butting heads with people, where I was getting to the point of like, I want to just quit everything. I don't want to lead my small group. I don't want to volunteer. I want to quit my job. I don't want to talk to any family members because nobody understands me and I'm just constantly hitting walls and I'm so exhausted that I want to just completely isolate and hermit and just not speak to anyone. And so to be in that place and have somebody like not just say the words, I see you, I hear you, but really like validate my experience by telling me what I feel accurately, in other words, like that made my day, made my night, made my week, just like really pulled me out of the rut that I was falling into. And I just share this to encourage you guys to like do the very best you can to pay attention to your friends and show up when and how you can, and just like listen attentively and try to just like repeat back to people. If someone is like sharing how they feel, like try to repeat back, all right, so I'm hearing that you're really sad about this thing that happened at work, or I'm hearing that you're really excited about this thing that happened at work. And it can feel like really awkward and uncomfortable to begin with, especially if you get it wrong, because that's going to make them feel not seen and not heard, and how I was feeling earlier today and this week. But when you do that, you're able to go back and forth a little bit so that you can get on the same page, where if you do that, it sounds like you're really excited about what's going on at work. And if the person's like, does it? Because I'm not excited about it. Like I was telling you about a new project, but honestly, I'm kind of stressed. And you're like, oh, sorry. Like the tone in which you delivered the initial thing sounded kind of excited. And I was thinking like new project, excitement. But so, okay, you're saying that you're stressed about it. Why are you stressed? And then maybe they share like, I don't know, I have to work with my boss on it and he's really terrible, or like there's a lot of stakeholders and there's just a lot of pressure. And that's where you learn like things that stress the person out or things that excite them or whatever. And then you just kind of file that away for future conversations. My therapist has to remind me all the time that not every conversation can be like light and happy and fun and normal, and like we have to have hard conversations, which is literally why I have a segment on the podcast about it, to remind myself and remind my listeners of like, this is just part of life. It's something we have to do. But I think something that's really difficult is like, if I'm having repeated hard conversations with the same person, or if it's a new person and we're having hard conversations really early, because then I start to feel like, is this going to be a pattern? Are we going to have hard conversations all the time? Because I don't want to. That's not fun. And I also panic and I start to be like, okay, well, this isn't going well. So like, does this mean we can't be friends? Or is this just something we have to work through? I don't really want to work through this early in our relationship, but like, I don't know. And same thing with like dating. Like, I feel like this is part of why I stopped dating, but like I get really dismissive really early because it's just like, we haven't been dating that long. I don't have to deal with this if I don't want to. And like not really giving people the space to change and grow. And also not giving myself the space to change and grow. And I just like really want to have more grace for people, and more empathy for people. And I think it's all just so much harder than it sounds. And like when it's like you're putting the work in and you're trying so hard. And at the end of the day, like I think that's what has stressed me the most about these hard conversations. Is it's one thing if you are going back and forth with someone and as the conversation goes, you're getting closer to meeting in the middle. And then when the conversation ends, you now have learned something about the other person. You understand them a little better. At the beginning of the conversation, like you thought they were talking about one thing, but now you understand they were talking about something else. And you understand that you had the wrong perspective about them. And you're like, oh, I get this. Like now I know what you mean when you say this word or this phrase or whatever. And that feels really nice. And I think that's kind of when you're in the fight or flight of like, oh no, I don't know if we're going to fight. I don't know if they hate me. Like I'm uncomfortable. Like, I want to run away. Like if you're having that feeling going into the conversation, then it's really helpful to feel more seen and more heard by the end of the conversation. But if the opposite happens, where like if you go in with that anxiety and then you're just butting heads and you're just getting more and more anxious, it's like if I spend 45 minutes or an hour talking to you and at the end I feel like I just spent the whole day explaining myself and you still didn't get it, you still don't know me, then it's like now I wasted my day and now I wasted my time, and I very highly value my time. And so I think that is what's been really, really weighing on me, as I feel like I'm going out of my way to try to be clear and it's just not working, and that makes me just like shut down and not want to try anymore. And it's kind of like, when do you decide? Like when have you tried enough? Like when can you give up? And if it's people at work, like if it's my boss or my team, it's like I don't have a choice to give up. Like I'm stuck. I got to have a one-on-one every week and figure it out. And so it's just kind of like, what do you do in these situations? That is an actual question. Please email me at realhonestpod@gmail.com and let me know what you do in these situations, because I have been crowdsourcing my friends for the past couple weeks of just reaching out, being like, I keep hitting this wall and I keep having the same issue, and like, so I know that I'm the common denominator. Okay, I know that it's me. So how can I do something different? And also, I just want to encourage you guys to like watch the way that you react. And I do want to say, when it like, I think it's a two-part thing, like reacting, whether your reaction is really big or really small. There also, I think I gave an example earlier where it's like, you can be excited in a very expressive way, or you can be excited in a little way. It works the same way where like you can chastise a person kindly. So it's like the only way it's not the only way to tear a person down if they say like, I've never seen Twilight, and you're like, what's wrong with you? Are you crazy? Do you live under a rock? But you also could be like, what's wrong with you? Are you crazy? Do you live under a rock? Like, that was way more chill, but it's the same sentiment. And so it's kind of like, that's why I really hate the compliment sandwich, where I don't know who came up with the compliment sandwich, but personally I don't use it because I think it's terrible. But they say like, give the person a compliment and then give them the feedback and then end with a compliment, because I feel like that gives people whiplash, and it's like, wait, what are you trying to say? And it kind of negates the compliments because people just focus on the feedback. And so it's just kind of like, I think it's a confusing way to give feedback to people. But like, how do you guys like to receive feedback? Let me know. Do you like the compliment sandwich? Do you use the compliment sandwich? Do you think it's helpful? All right, well, that's all I have for you guys today. I'm going to go watch The Handmaid's Tale and cry a lot. Okay, bye.
I'm not here to sugarcoat, life's already a bumpy road. Too much shelter causes pain, let's just be real honest. Things are gonna knock you down, avoidance will not help you out. Let's talk it through, here me and you, let's keep it real honest.